Good morning. Today we'll discuss about the identity crisis in Girish Karnad's play Hayavadan. In his introduction to Hayavadan, Kirtinath says that the play deals with the problem of human identity in a world of tangled relationships, causing a confusion of identities which reveals the ambiguous nature of human personality. For the play is chiefly concerned with the identity crisis of Padmini in the main plot and Hayavadan, that is, Haya means horse and Vadan means face. So the first point is the main plot of from what is the source of Hayavadan. So the main plot of Hayavadan has been taken from Vetala Panchavinshati, a constituent of Somdev's Katha Sarit Sagar. The story is built on a moral problem of deciding the identity of a woman's husband. So, once it is about a washerman who marries a beautiful woman, and once he sets out on a journey with his wife and brother in law. On the way, he comes across a Kali temple where he offers his head as a sacrifice to the goddess. When his brother in law sees this, he too follows suit. Consequently, his wife tries to do some same when she is stopped by the goddess, who helps her in reviving both her husband and her brother. But in anxiousness and tension, the wife mixes up the heads and transposing her husband's head on her brother's body and her brother's head on her husband's body, therefore creating an identity crisis. This crisis is solved by King Vikram, who decides that the head with the husband's body is indeed the woman's husband. Though this concept may be acceptable to the Indian mind, the German author Thomas Mann cannot accept it easily. He weaves a long short story called The Transposed Heads, which highlights the philosophical problem of the mind and body's dualism. He glorifies the body and suggests that it can be a fit instrument for the fulfillment of human destiny. So, how Karnad's play fits into this? While the Indian solution in Vetala Panchavimasti upholds idealism, the German solution in the Transport Heads espouses materialism. Aware of the extreme nature of these opinions, Karnad seems to hint them a middle way of humanism in Hayavadan. For he dwells on the complex psychosocial dimensions of the problem of identity crisis. He deals with the moral problem in the main plot and the philosophical problem in the subplot. And he combines these two plots on the broader psychosocial plane of the world, illuminating the essentially ambiguous aspect of human nature. So, it is this intriguing and complex psychosocial dynamics of human identity crisis, that is, a woman in love with two men, Padmini with Devdutt and Kapil, and the plight of the abandoned children, Hayavadan and Padmini's child, and also the hierarchical social structure with all its repressive conventions that lends charm to the play. So, what is the crisis of Padmini? So, as long as Padmini remains the daughter of the leading merchant of Dharampura, she has no problem whatsoever. When the handsome and wise son of Vidyasagar falls in love with her and marries her through his best friend Kapil's efforts, she faces a moral dilemma. She is attracted to the strong and muscular of the plain and dark son of an ironsmith. Gradually, this leads to the tension between the couple as well as the two friends. Matters come to a had during the journey the three of them undertake in the cart driven by Kapil to the Ujjain fair. Devdutt was not very happy. He was quite reluctant to undertake this journey, so he wants to stay at home to spend a few private moments with his pregnant wife, as Kapil's frequent visits intrudes their privacy. So Padmini does not care for her husband's hurt feelings. She only cannot stand the disappointment in Kapil's eyes when the trip is about to be called off. On their way to Ujjain, Devdutt clearly sees the burning flames of passion in his wife's eyes for his best friend as Kapil climbs up the tree laden with the fortunate lady's flowers to get a heap of these flowers for Padmini. So his mental agony is quite unbearable. And because of that, he sets off for the Kali temple on Mount Chitrakoot, where he sacrifices his head to the goddess. Kapil also follows him and chops off his head for the sake of undying friendship for Devdutt. Padmini is now disgusted with both of them. The inherent ambiguity in love, marriage, and friendship is brought out, and it complicates Padmini's identity crisis further. So the sleepy goddess is irritated by Padmini's dilemma, and she helps her to bring the two men to life, after which the irritated goddess goes back to sleep. In the darkness of the temple, an excited Padmini intentionally, or maybe inadvertently, mixes up the heads of Devdutt and Kapil. She transposes Devdutt's head on Kapil's body and Kapil's head on Devdutt's body. This complicates the things for her further, because it was a question that whose wife is she now, Devdutt or Kapil. The problem is solved by a sage who decrees and says that the heavenly Kalpavriksha is supreme among trees, so is the head among human limbs. So, therefore, the man with Devdutt's head is indeed Devdutt, and he is Padmini's rightful husband. So, with this verdict, Padmini and Devdutt are overjoyed. Padmini is excited to possess a fabulous body, fabulous brain, and Devdutt also, and so is Devdutt. Expectedly, Kapil is sad. He parts company with them and decides to spend the rest of his life in the forests. This, though, may have solved the moral problem, but the psychological problem persists. Devdutt soon loses the strong physique of Kapil, while Kapil finds it hard to adapt himself to Devdutt's slender and delicate body. Both of them gradually revert to their original selves but possess the same heads. They both of them reach their former self of distinct head and body. Padmini is now disenchanted with Devdutt and pines for Kapil. She dreams of him and longs to be with him. She uses the forthcoming Ujjain fair to send Devdutt there to buy new dolls for her son and leaves for the dense forest looking for Kapil. Now the old fire is rekindled and she makes love to Kapil in the forest. Devdutt pursues the lovers there, and the three of them realize that they cannot live together like the Pandavas and Draupadi. Devdutt and Kapil fight a duel to death, and Padmini is left alone to fend for herself. She commits sati with the bodies of both, complaining the goddess, Kali, mother of all nature, you must have your joke even now. Other women can die praying they should get the same husband in all lives to come. You haven't left me even that little consolation. So, Karnad proleptically projects that Padmini needs a man of steel, and Devdutt is not the man for her, nor can she possess someone like Kapil. Now, what is Hayavadhan? If the tragic identity crisis of Padmini is presented in the main plot, the comic identity crisis of Hayavardhan is unraveled in the subplot. Hayavardhan's critical condition can be understood and empathized within the light of his lineage. He is offspring of a Gandharva, a celestial being who was undergoing a divine curse, and the beautiful princess of Karnataka. Despite the physical identity crisis and the sense of alienation, Hayavardhan seems to be superior to all the major and minor characters in the play. The horse head appears to symbolize common sense. He asks intelligent questions and points to several loopholes in the individual and social systems. His actual problem is that he is not actually aware of his super intelligence. As a result, he is carried away by the deceptive appearance of a complete man and is finally changed into a complete horse but with human voice by Kali's doubtful blessing. Nothing like this extraordinary creature has come out of Karnad's over either before or after Hayavardhan. And Karnad seems to point out that what is need for a healthy society is, and means that what is the need of a healthy society is pure horse sense. So Karnad in a way points out that the society needs a healthy society, needs pure horse sense and not the adulterated snake sense. Now the supernatural presence in the play. The role of the supernatural forces in the story adds to the miseries of the identity crisis that prove to be its redressal. The goddesses or the presence of Lord Ganesha in the beginning signifies the remover of all hurdles and obstacles and ensuring the success of the play. Hayavardhan's father is also a celestial being who has been cursed to become a horse and who reverts to his original form after 15 years of human love. Then there is the goddess Kali, the mother of all nature. Instead of alleviating human misery, it augments it by facilitating an identity crisis at her own level. Later, she tells Padmini that both of them were, in a way, in the play says are rascals who were lying to their last breaths. So, this is the proof of divine malignity towards human beings. And finally, when Hayavardhan goes to the goddess to become complete, he is not given a patient hearing by Kali. Before he can say that what he wants to become a complete man, she transforms him into a complete horse. Hayavardhan becomes a complete horse but with a human voice. If the goddess had not remained indifferent to the plight of Padmini and Hayavardhan, their problem of identity crisis would not have been aggravated to such an extent. So it seems that the goddess is little concerned with the miseries of the earthlings. Actually, we should be content with what we are and forget about any assistance from the supernatural powers. No external power can change one's condition without complicating it any further. So in Padmini's life is ruined to such an extent that both the men she loves die fighting each other to death and she is burnt to the ashes on the funeral pyre. Hayavardhan ends up becoming a comic figure by turning into a complete horse instead of a complete man by the end of the play. Karnad therefore has made it clear that we should not entangle ourselves with the complexities of identity crisis. Rather, we should be satisfied with what life has handed down to us. This reconciliation with one's own self, life and environment is the last solution to one's identity crisis. Thank you.